Hello and welcome back to another Xplane video. There's been a major update to the game. We're now in version 10 beta 7 and they've done some huge improvements. There's a new version of the Cessna and they've created loads of landmarks and loads of scenery changes around London, and I believe they're going to be adding a lot more in the future. So here we are, we're in London City Airport in what looks from the outside to be exactly the same Cessna. As soon as we jump inside, we've now got the fully featured G1000, the glass cockpit version of the Cessna. And they've put a lot of work into this. It's really evident. It looks absolutely fantastic. If we get our battery turned on and get the avionics on, we can have a look and see what they've done. So obviously we get our artificial horizon with our altitude and our speed all alongside. Seen similar stuff like that before, but obviously nothing in the Cessna. Start off by having a look at the transponder. So you've got all these buttons down the bottom and they change depending on which menu you're in. So we'll open up transponder. We can then determine the mode that we want. So we'll have it on altitude, and then we can either have a standard VFR code, which I think defaults the US code, or you can just open up the code option and put whatever code you've been given in. I'm going to leave it on 7000, and we've got ident here as well if you're asked to do so. We can then go over to the PFD, so this is the primary flight display, and then this is where we can change all sorts of settings on our heads up. So defaults, that just resets everything back. We've then got wind, and then that gives us 3 different options and an off, and that changes the display just here. So option 1 shows you sort of 2 vectors, option 2 adds those together, option 3 gives you the actual physical numbers with the direction, off is quite clearly just off. I prefer option 2, that's just what I like. We've then got DME, so you can display that if you like or not. And then we've got bearing 1, which on the left hand side you can either select nav 1 or your GPS. And then on the right hand side you've got nav 2 or your GPS. We can then change the altitude units for the barometer, so we've got inches or hectopascals, and then we can set the standard there as well. We've then got our CDI, so we can change that to be from our localizers or to our GPS. And then once again, we can open up our DME menu from here, and then that allows us to change all sorts of different options about it. You can expand it out as well if you need to. I don't like it personally, but it's possible. We've then got nearest, so it shows you all your nearest airports. Obviously, we're currently in London City, so that's our closest airport. And then alerts, I believe these are alerts from like emergencies and whatnot. So if you get an engine failure, that appears there. I haven't actually ever seen anything in there, so I'm not quite sure. That's the main display. Over then on our second display, we've got all of our engine and system information. So engine RPM, all the pressures, the fuel and the electrics. And then we've got our map, which we can zoom in and out on. You can actually zoom out a very long way on this. It's much further than the actual in-game map if you press M, which I found quite interesting. You can change all the barometers and all of your radios here as well. You can also do that on the primary display, and all that information is displayed at the top. That's pretty much it. If we go into map, you've got all the different types. So they have got a button here for NexRad, which I believe is weather information. I don't think that's implemented just yet. I've got traffic turned on, and quite coincidentally, we can see this traffic that is 350 feet above me and just south of the river. That's quite cool. I've not seen that before. And then we can turn that on and off should we wish to, and we can actually turn off the topographical maps. Right, let's get rid of that. Come back, and yeah, that's pretty much it. We have got a declutter option, so if you've got too much displayed on your map, you can use the declutter. There's 3 different stages, and then it all comes back. For flight planning, etc., it's just pretty much a standard. Press the flight plan button, I've already got an approach set up here, which we will come back to later, but it's pretty much all the same. So on to part 2 of this then. We are in London City, as I mentioned before, and they've added some landmarks and changed up the scenery. Now, I was going to show you this in real-world conditions, but right now, London is covered in low cloud and fog. So I'm going to go and edit the weather settings just so we can actually see something. Get ready for takeoff, and I will join you back on the runway. Okay then, here we go. We're about to line up on the runway and head off towards London City to see all of the new landmarks. Now I've raised the clouds up a few thousand feet. I didn't actually change any of the weather apart from just lifting the clouds. I'm not sure what sort of altitude we're going to expect. There we go. Right, I'm going to start my 180 around so that we can head towards London City. Or London City Centre, I guess. Get our lights off now. And we actually don't need the fuel pump on anymore. I'm basically just going to follow the river. Now, London's airspace is extremely restricted. So you wouldn't ever be able to do this in real life. But for the sakes of showing you the new scenery, I'm not really that bothered. Let's get some nose down trim in, please. Okay, normally I can use my mouse wheel on that, but that's not working. They might have changed that. May need to up the visibility a bit more looking at this. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. There we go, that's much better. Now in marginal VFR. And over in the distance, you can see our first landmark. So we have the Gherkin. Quite famous on the London skyline. Right, so there we have it. So there is Tower Bridge and the Gherkin. And then over in the distance, you can see the London Eye and the Houses of Parliament. Now, the Houses of Parliament I've flown around a couple of times, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So, along with adding all of these landmarks, they've also added a lot more bridges over the river, which would make sense because there are loads of bridges. They've also massively improved the railway generation. Railways actually look full size now rather than just a single line where normally there'd be 5 or 6. There's a lot more variation in the housing and the actual buildings. I mean, it's not what London actually looks like yet, but they are working on it and it looks much, much better than it did before. The road networks are still a bit janky here and there, but like I said, it's much, much better than before. Alright, so there we have it. There is the London Eye. I'm actually going to deploy some flaps here so we can go a bit slower and have a better look at this. There we go. It's very well detailed. Absolutely fantastic. And then we move on to the Houses of Parliament. Now the detailing this is amazing. Add a bit of power so that we don't crash into the ground, and then we're going to loop around the front. Oh, sorry, residents. There we go. And then, of course, we've got Big Ben. There he is. Unfortunately silenced for the next couple of years, I think, but he'll be back to his former glory soon. Now, I don't know if these are actually solid objects. I don't really want to test it and try and fly through. But we have got a few sort of tower blocks and other things popping up. Right, I am now going to use the G1000 and line up for an approach back at London City. So once I'm established on that, I will join you guys back. Right, so we just got over the final approach fix. Now I have found the autopilot in this to be a little bit buggy, but you know, it is still a beta, so I'm sure by the time they get the full update out, it'll be absolutely fine. I'm cruising along at 1,000 feet. I'm just going to get close and then take over and do a visual landing, because I haven't got anything set up for the ILS or anything. Seems to be tracking okay now. When I was doing this previously, it would take me sort of 20 degrees off course over to the left here. I've got no idea why. Right, let's get set up for our landing. So we want our landing lights and our fuel pump on. We're then going to get our first notch of flap and bring the speed down. And I'm going to disengage the autopilot here and take over manually. Now there is quite a steep approach into London City normally, because you've got Canary Wharf and everything from this side, and then I think a few more buildings on the other side. My knowledge of London is very, very limited, especially the skyline. Right, let's get our second notch of flap. We're coming in on the Pappy now, so we've got 1 white, 3 red. There we go. So we've got 2 white now, so we need to increase our speed of descent slightly. Not that much though. It's a bit bumpy. Should be okay. There's only 4 knots of wind. Nothing major. Okay, let's go for full flaps. It's a bit steeper than I'd like to come in, but it's a very long runway for this aircraft, so we're fine. Sinking quite a lot now. Try and stop that. There we go. Looking good. And flare. Yeah, we're not exactly on the center line, but I'm happy with that. That's probably the best landing I've done in a while. And we're going to exit just here. Get our lights sorted out. Okay, so there we go. That was a quick look at the new update, so version 10 beta 7. And we had a look at the new landmarks and scenery all around London. I believe they are working on landmarks all around the world. So as I see them added, we'll go and check them out. And we've also had a look at the new G1000 that is fitted to the Cessna. I haven't actually tried the SF50 yet, but I assume that it's now a functioning aircraft, so I might give that a go. It'd be nice to have a bit of jet fun, I guess. But I want to thank you very much for watching. My regular content should be coming back soon. If you've enjoyed, please leave a like, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.